Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud Course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. Turn 1, quite tricky. What I'm using as a reference for braking is the crest that you're gonna see in front of the car. So I'm not really looking at the 100-meter board or the 50. I still see it with my lateral vision, but I'm looking more at this elevation change because you will notice, like right now, that the road starts to fall downwards, and whenever I feel it and whenever I feel the compression going downwards after the crest, then I'm applying the brakes, because you really want to brake. Generally, whenever you have this elevation change, you don't want to brake on the top of the crest because you have less grip there. You want to brake in the moment that the suspension compresses. The braking reference is actually what you feel in the force feedback. If you have a wheelbase or steering wheel in which you don't really feel those details, then a visual reference for it will be this elevation change right here. Because right now you don't see the road going in front of you, you just see this crest. But whenever you will start seeing the road going downwards, you can also use the blue cone as a reference. So very close to the blue cone, or whenever you can see more in front of you, you're gonna apply the brakes. I'm doing mostly on feel whenever I feel the suspension compressed into those downwards part of the track. I'm applying the brakes. I don't want to brake hard. I'm downshifting at the same time, and I'm also turning at the same time. So you really want to point the car early into the corner with a downshift, with a trail brake. You want to arrive very closely to this red and white curve, but you don't want to go on top of it. If you're gonna go on top of it, you will have a wide exit and you have to let go of the throttle on the exit. Instead, you want to apex around the white line, maybe kiss the beginning of the curve, but not go on top of it. And now whenever you go on power, it's gonna be ideal to go 0-100 without modulation. If you find yourself doing corrections under throttle, not ideal, but still try to have a proper apex point. That's gonna give you the best exit possible. You can get this part of the gravel here without getting an off track, so you can touch it with the left tires. If you barely touch it, it won't be an off track. Now for the next corner, braking reference is the 50-meter board. I brake at the 50. And I'm trying to brake in a straight line as much as I can. I try to take it with a V-shaped line here. So I don't want to brake and turn. Instead, I want to brake straight and then turn. And I like to have here like a small gap in the inputs, like trail braking with 1% or just for a thousandth of a second to be without the brakes on, because I don't want the car to understeer because of too much trail brake. What I'm doing is this. Firstly, braking in a straight line, barely turning the car. Now I'm turning more. Now I'm dropping the brakes. This is done on purpose right now. Because I take this wide line, those V-shaped line into the corner, if I will trail brake with more braking pressure, like 5% pressure, the inside ride will start to lock up. So if you find that you're locking up your inside front tire, then this is something that you can consider. Obviously, you can also bring the brake bias towards the rears. That's something that I've already done, as you can see here, 55.5 from the 58, which is in the fixed setup. Now, when going into this corner, it's ideal to not hit this curb again. If you're gonna hit that curb, you will bounce more to the outside and you will lose time. So again, sharp inputs, 0 to 100 very quickly. I don't recommend using this left part on the curb. You can put your tires on it without getting an off track. I just don't recommend it because you will cover a longer distance and you won't take that time, so ignore it. Going into this corner, my braking reference for this corner is the moment that I put the car straight for the corner. So I'm going now diagonally towards the corner. The moment that I straighten up the car, like right now, that's the moment where I'm applying the brakes. Very closely to the moment that my wheel is straight. I don't want to brake hard, I just want to barely touch the brakes. And you can be super early on throttle like this. You can push the car all the way like this without being an off track. That's super important. So soft on the brakes, notice 15% brakes, no more. Then going on power and pushing the car wide on this part right here. But you have to bring the car very quickly back on the left side, because otherwise you're gonna get the off track. So I'm trying to bring it quickly here, so it won't be an off track. Now for this corner, what I'm using as a reference for braking is the 50-meter board. I want to brake past the 50. So a few meters past the 50, I'm applying the brakes. I brake in a straight line, so I'm pointing the car all the way to the outside. And then I'm turning it with a trail brake, getting back on power. Quick thing here, you don't want to hit that curb. So notice that on the inside right now, I'm hitting this curb. This is not ideal. So this is not ideal. This lap is far from perfect. I had half a second more of lap time, but unfortunately I couldn't put it all together. So even though the optimal time was half a second quicker, it was very difficult for me to put a clean lap. So I'm just gonna point out every mistake. This was one of the mistakes again. And right now this is gonna be a big straight, so you really want to have the least amount of modulations into the throttle. You see here I had a small lift, not ideal. Now going into this corner, 50-meter board is gonna be a reference. Past the 50, you're gonna apply the brakes and downshift to 5th. Notice my trail braking, I'm braking in the 5th percentage or 10 maximum. You don't want to brake very hard. Use this curb on the inside, you can put your tire on it and it's gonna be fine. Now going into the next corner, again 50-meter board, reference for braking, past the 50, barely touching the brakes, again very soft on the brakes into these high-speed corners, 10%, 15% maximum, downshifting to 4th to make the rears kick in and generate a bit of oversteer on entry. Now cutting this a lot, this is gonna be key, but my mistake is that right now I'm waiting. I should have already be on throttle, so the moment that you cut that inside curb on the right side, you should already smash the throttle because you have a lot of space here. You see, I already had space to go closer to the gravel, but because I have this gap here, I lost around 1/10 and a half. So be mindful of that. Now going into the next corner, I like to do it in 4th gear. You can do it in 5th as well, but what I'm using here as a reference for braking is when I'm seeing the top of the crest, like right now, I'm looking at the top of the crest, and whenever I'm very close to it, I'm just applying the brakes and downshifting, braking no more than 20%. I think you can brake even less. I think I overslow the car on entry into this corner, so I would challenge myself here to brake half of what I did, like braking 10%, no more. You can cut more this curve, so you should go on the apex a lot more sharply. You should touch the inside part of the curve more because you will gain a lot more time. That's how you're gonna be able to brake less, by cutting a lot more into this corner. Now my throttle application was fine, but I lost on entry because I braked too much and because I didn't cut the apex, so around 1/10 here again. Now going into this corner is tricky. What I'm using here as a reference for braking is not really visual. It's more likely I'm looking here into the corner, and the moment I see the red curve on the left side, that's when I'm applying the brakes. You can't really see it in the lap because everything happens so quickly, so it's mostly done on feel whenever I anticipate the distance. But if you want a visual cue, that can be one. See how it works for you. You can also use, if it's sunny, you can also use this this light part here. Now for this corner, you want to touch this curve, but you want to touch it a bit earlier. So small mistake here, a bit of an early apex. You want to apex a bit later on this compression. You have a lot of grip into this compression, so the earlier you arrive here, but from a later angle, if that makes sense, is gonna be good. So you want to turn in a bit later and then quickly go into the inside part. Notice this gap in the input, not ideal. You want here to go immediately back on power. And now heading into the last corner, my reference for braking is this exit road. Whenever the grass is finished on the left side. Whenever the grass stops, I'm going to apply the brakes. 30%, no more. I'm looking now on the inside curb right here. I want to touch it with the right tires and then immediately be back on power using all the track. And in short, that's a track guide for F4 Brands Hatch. If you like my style, if you want to learn more, if you want to develop yourself as a driver, I also have a sim racing course. Check it out in the description of the video. Thanks for watching and looking forward to see you in the next track guide. Bye bye.